Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today's guest has been focused on balancing her mental, emotional, and physical health while pushing for her goals. She provides personalized coaching with Team Dumbbells N Donuts as a health and fitness coach and nutritionist. This athlete started her journey in 2017 and earned her pro card at her 10th national competition, the 2024 NPC Universe. Welcome to the show, KAYLA KRAUSS. How are you doing?
I'm good. I did not know it was my 10th. Hey, that's a beautiful, like,
circle. Yeah, I think I got them out.
You probably did. I've actually never counted. So I was like, I turned pro at my 10th national show. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I always feel like it's a risk for me to like tally them up because there's been times where I'll do that and they're like, oh, actually it was this, because sometimes it's not, for some reason, some competitions aren't posted on NPC News. But yeah, your 10th show.
When people ask me, I am not trying to hide it. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
Because when you're backstage at the national shows, there's some girls that are there for the first time. So like, what show is this for you? And I'm like,
you're like, I've been here, done this about a million times.
I don't know anymore. But it's amazing. I lose track.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It's my pleasure. You know that I got to ask you if there is anything you do, think about, or maybe a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage.
Yes. So I will always have like a specific song that is like a go-to. Like in 2020, what was it? 2022, it was like You Girl by Walker something.
Walker Hayes.
Hayes. That was like that was half headphone and I'm doing like posing. I always say I pose out my my jitters. So I always do some posing. And then this year it was Able by and Fancy was the song. So I'll have that and on my ear and I will just start doing some posing out my feels, all that kind of stuff. And honestly, right before stage, I always tell my posing girls this. I was like, Chi-Chi's up. So I'm like, right beforehand, I'm like, Chi-Chi's up, have fun. And then I go.
That's awesome. I love that. I actually saw
the judges are so down low. It's so easy to like forget that. That's always the first thing. I'm like, just chest up.
Yeah, that's a good reminder. It's good for posture. I'm like over here interviewing you like this right now.
Right.
Like,
it's so easy. And then especially when the judges are down, there's so many like shows, like competitions where I've accidentally dropped. It's because I was looking down at them. So then that's why that's part of my.
That's a good point.
I have forgotten before.
Yeah, that's a good tip. I think too, when you get fatigued on stage, that's easy to start. Like you either lift your shoulders up or you start leaning forward too much. There's that overemphasis. So that's a good tip already. Look at you. You're already started with some.
I always tell people like how I've learned is I've had a few unfortunate stage shots and I didn't do it again.
It's like, oh man, the things I wish I could erase.
Like, how do we not, that's my mission for everything. How do we not do that again and improve for the next time?
That's right. We learn from our mistakes. I bet that helps you though when you're talking to other competitors, gives them some insight.
It makes them feel better that mistakes literally happen. Like I fumbled my posing at Junior Nats this year, but I actually asked people, no one knew but me. But I still see it when I watch the video, but I think I recovered pretty well. But people think that just because we've done this forever, that we don't have fumbles or stumbles. It's just, we just keep going and know what you didn't even notice because guess what? Only we are practicing that posing routine over and over and over again.
Absolutely. Like if you watch pro shows even, you'll see like stumbles and little missteps. It's not uncommon. I mean, we're walking on a stage that's been built with multiple pieces, and it's like a puzzle up there, and you just happen to step in the crack sometimes, or maybe you turn a little too fast and you jiggle a little more than you expected. But most of the times we're the only ones who notice, like you said.
No, you just keep going. Like I have stepped on like the uneven crack. They
Mhm.
even it was in the center of the center
I
box.
know what you mean. Yep, I knew exactly.
Oh, wait, but you put the box there. It's
Yeah,
you could put it anywhere. We wouldn't have noticed.
absolutely. It's
But
like,
I did step on it, and I remember I had to do like my pivot with it, and
uh-huh.
I was like, "Well, we're either gonna fall or not." We didn't. It
Yep.
worked out.
That's something I would recommend change it. If I could change something about stages, I talked to some other competitors about this too. It's almost always right in the center of that box because it's like that's where the best lighting is. And they choose like all the same squares that they put together. But I think it would be better if there was like a horizontal or a diagonal
Mhm.
piece, and then it comes together like two triangles and a diagonal.
Maybe even like a plywood or a piece of like the actual wood underneath the carpet that we stand on the line to the back. So then, yeah, that probably makes more sense. Like a little stage on top of the stage. So then there's no
Yes.
like little cracks and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay,
Yep.
now that we've solved the world's problem, let's get into your journey. So, since 2021 specifically, your competition journey has been refocused on healing to your pro card. So, what happened that triggered this change in, or maybe emphasis on your road to pro?
So I love how you worded that. This is amazing. So,
Thanks.
so 2017 was my first time I wanted to compete. 2014 is when I really wanted to. My cousin is an IFBB classic physique pro, and he started his journey in 2014. So that I was like, oh, that sounds like fun. And so in 2017, but everything that I ever did in athletics was rooted out of not thinking I'm good enough, or the motivation was honestly rooted in a lot of self criticism and self hate. I want to do this because I don't like the way I look. I don't like this about myself. I don't like this. I don't, it was all about what I hated, and nothing about what I loved. And that came from, I also am a competitive volleyball player. I played NCAA volleyball. So even when I was in volleyball, when I played semi-pro and beach, like and now learning it, everything was rooted in how not to mess up. It was always a very negative mindset. And I think that's where, like, and I struggled a lot in my first two post shows situations, because of body dysmorphia or not being attached to ourselves and all that kind of stuff. And it affected my relationships with other people. I isolated myself and all those things that it threw me into a really bad place mentally. But then after 2019, the prep experience, now that I'm educated in nutritional science and proper prep protocols, were not the healthiest preps. And I did not know I had a chronic disorder. And I found out I've always had really, really painful periods. And this is relevant. I've always had really, really painful periods. This is really relevant to the situation. And they got very, very worse after 2019, to the point that I finally started telling my current gynecologist that, hey, something's up. Like I am in so much pain. And it hasn't been this bad since, and I remember like college, right? Back when I was probably under eating and overtraining, just like I was doing now. And binge drinking, because post-show binge drinking, right? So dysregulated. The correlation was very similar.
Interesting.
And I remember why I told my current gynecologist. What's crazy is I hadn't tell this one because I've been gaslit my whole life that period pain was normal. And that's the most important thing that I hear from this journey, and ladies, if you're listening, is that period pain should not exist. Period should be 100% pain free. If you are in pain, there's something wrong. Is period pain common? Yes, but it's not normal. And when I finally told my current gynecologist, because I actually got my implants done in 2019, and I took my period pain was so bad. I took a post-op pain med. So I took oxycodone for my period cramps, and it made them tolerable. I was no longer crawling all over the ground. I wasn't profusely sweating. I could stop throwing up, like all those things, right? And I was like, well, this is highly addictive. I am ADHD. And this can't be right. This can't be right. So then that's when I told my current gynecologist. And in 2020, I was in surgery in 2 weeks with, it was quick. And I had stage 3 endometriosis, and I'm going to butcher this word because I'm also dyslexic, but it's like adenomyosis. Yeah. Basically it's when the endometriomes go inside the walls of the uterus. It's basically inside the uterus. And it was on my bowel, colon, urethra, bladder, and all over my pelvic floor. And I had chronic inflammation all over my body. But this is what changed my mindset with bodybuilding. That's why I had to tell that story. We'll touch on that a little bit later too. But because in that moment, when I heard this word for the first time, you have endometriosis. And I went, what? So you're telling me this whole time. And then I got confirmed, you have stage 3 endometriosis. There's only 4 stages. Stage 3. Huh. So you're telling me this entire time that I've been normalizing having 1 peaceful week a month, and I've been in so much pain this whole time, this limitation that y'all told me was normal was never normal. What else about my life have I been normalizing that was not normal? What else, what other limitations did other people tell me were mine that actually weren't? Because that was a huge one. It was hard to hold a job. It was hard to do a lot of things because, oh, it's just a period. You can't call out of work. It's just a period. That term affects, like, that hurts because it's way more when you have what we have, what I have. And so I was like, okay, so if I'm going to do bodybuilding again, one, I'm going to hire somebody I look up to. And I never reached out to people I looked up to because I never felt like I was good enough. But that was a limitation somebody else made me believe. So I reached out to Paul. I reached out to the guy that I've been watching on YouTube with all my anxiety to ask him if he would coach me. The before and after I typically use, especially when I'm posing, is when I first started with Paul, because my body was so inflamed and in such a bad place that you couldn't really even tell I've probably competed before. That's how lack of structure of bikini look it was at that time. And me and Paul talked on the phone, and I was nervous the whole time, and he took me on. And that prep, if I could take anything back, I probably would have taken that full year off and allowed my body to heal from endometriosis surgery. But you don't know what you don't know until you know it. So when I started doing that prep, I realized, well, one, it took 9 weeks for my body to do anything. It would not move. And it's because my body was in such a stressed out state. My hormones were all imbalanced. I was still dealing with chronic inflammation, and pain still was happening, to the point that I actually went, and so all that happened. But since pain was still happening, Western medicine had nothing more for me. But I don't think of my limitations anymore. So during prep, my body wasn't responding. I was like, why isn't my body responding? Why is this stuff happening? Paul didn't have the answers because he's not a doctor. He's a coach. So to me, it was my responsibility right then and there to figure out what's going on with my body and mind that can make me the best person to respond to his protocols. It's not his responsibility to make my, that's too much to ask another person to do. So what I did was then I went back to Western medicine. They had nothing for me. That's the end of the rope there. So I was crying, and I Googled female focused acupuncturist, because I've never been to an acupuncturist, and that they said acupuncture could help. That's when I met Dr. Julie. Dr. Julie is an acupuncturist out of Jacksonville, and she was the first person that was like, no, you can do this. You can compete, and we can heal your body, and all of these symptoms will go away. Like, basically, she said all of it was possible. So I let her help my body heal during this prep. So the whole time I was doing, because I already knew, I know it feels like all over the place a little bit, I think. But I already knew I could do cardio, track macros, workout. Done it, did it, been doing it. I'm just a jerk to myself. That's the problem, right? So while I was doing all the physical stuff, that's where the mental and emotional stuff started coming in. And that's where I told my husband that when I was struggling, body wasn't responding. I was trying to figure out what's going on physically. And again, people told me the way that my brain operated was my limitations. And I felt anger a lot of the times. And I didn't like feeling angry. And this happened all during this prep. And I said, anytime I felt, angry, I told my husband, I was like, I don't want to feel this anymore. And so he encouraged me. Actually, Alyssa, my business partner, Dumbbells N Donuts is her handle. And she referred me to her therapist. And so she became my third team. So during my first prep, when I decided to do this differently, and this is the biggest thing, what I want you to understand is that when I decided I want to do this differently, I wanted to choose me every single time. Like whatever it needed to be, there was nothing, any limitations. I wasn't going to suppress and surpass myself. I was going to understand and persevere. Like whatever it came on. So whatever physical thing came on, I searched for the answer, right? When the mental stuff came on, I didn't try to put blinders on and ignore like it wasn't there. I just, even though it made it so much harder, because it's hard when there's 31 years of trauma and stuff just unloading, that when I started with the therapist, this is when I knew how bad it was. And this is actually the question that altered how I talk to myself, is that she asked me a very baseline question. And she just said, what are your mental and emotional needs? Like, honestly, it's like, where do you live? What's your name? What are your mental and emotional needs? And I swear I did not know I had any. That's how bad it was. I didn't even know I had any. So that was like another moment of, wait, what? Wait, I have those and I'm allowed to have those, and like they exist. And that's probably why like the anger exists, because I never, so that these really big aha moments became I always tell people we're getting off the tightrope of all or nothing, where you feel like you're walking a tightrope made for somebody else and you're either on the tightrope or you're failing, but yet you still have blinders on, so you can't see anything around you. And then you expect yourself to somehow not be anxious. Like literally imagine yourself walking a tightrope with blinders on a tightrope made for somebody else. It might be for your weight limit or not. We don't really know. We don't even know how long it is because you've never done it before. It's like I started taking all these puzzle pieces and creating a little foundation where I knew would help me feel grounded. And I knew it wasn't going to be easy. So was 2021 my best season ever? No. I actually was on my cycle every single show. I talked about my uterus with Paul more than he ever would probably want to know about it. Mm-hmm. Like this was my first prep with this man, and I'm literally every prep, every show peak was my cycle week, and I was dealing with all of this stuff. But the thing is, as much as I was bloated or inflamed. I didn't love my hair. I tried to do curly hair that year. I was trying to figure myself out. Okay. I didn't know what I was doing. Really. Because I told you, I was going to be completely different. I was going to be new. I wanted to figure out who I was outside of who people told me I was. And I didn't know. So, during this process, it just allowed me everything that kind of perceived as a failure or a setback. It was just like, to me, it was just another window that I never knew was there that just opened up. And I'm like, oh my God, there is sunlight here. Okay, cool. And I guess that's kind of where 2021 and the shift of the mindset kind of went into. I know it's a lot, right?
That was beautiful. What I'm hearing is there was a series of dismissal in your life where you're consistently dismissed, whether that was a need, an expression, an experience. And when you grew older and these experiences became, now you cannot ignore them, and they were starting to really take over your life in a different way, you addressed them and you found help, and you didn't tell yourself, no, I'm not going to address this anymore. You actually went and talked about it. You got the help that you needed. And instead of leaning on other people's understandings or projections of who you are, you established that for yourself. And of course, that came with trials and challenges and a lot of inner work that is a continuous effort that doesn't just stop And that allowed that shift to go from, I'm just going to continue to push myself physically, to what could be potentially holding me back in these other ways, or limiting me, that I have yet to break through. And you made the decision that that was important to you. And clearly it made an impact on you as an athlete. And we know that athletes, and you can probably attest to this while being a volleyball player in the NCAA, being an athlete, if you're having anything going on in your personal life, it generally gets reflected in your performance or your playing life. So once you started to address these concerns, what did you notice change in your physique athlete experience?
So it's everything that I was learning, I correlated back to science. And at the end of the day, when you have a chronic illness or disease or disorder, whatever we want to call it, you have to keep it happy. So repeat the question for me. I have it, but it kind of jumped on me.
Yeah. How actually addressing that influenced you as a physique athlete?
So that being said, everything came along with regulating my nervous system, understanding within therapy. So everything I was learning in therapy and coping skills and processing when I'm in sympathetic ventral vagal, and when I'm in dorsal vagal, breather fawn, and feeling that sense of safety and embracing that sense of safety, right? And when you learn and actually allow your body to feel comfortable and peace, because honestly, if you've been living in chaos your whole life, that's actually going to feel like chaos until it doesn't. Right. So everything that I was doing was using coping skills. So, so basically, even with cardio, like and even why I have an at-home gym, if I learned I had auditory processing disorder with ADHD, instead of being like, oh, you just need to suck it up, you just need to go to the gym, you got to do it anyways. If I was feeling overstimulated and I was feeling overwhelmed, and the idea of a loud gym with fluorescent lighting with a bunch of people was just going to make me go further into a sympathetic state than I already was feeling in that moment. So not only would it dysregulate my nervous system, I wouldn't have a good lift. I would feel very angry and upset, and all of that's not great for anabolic behaviors, right? Like if we root it back to actually being the best athlete possible, nothing about what I've done is for fluff.
Right.
Like, well, you can be competitive, but like people sometimes think that the gentle stuff is not the grit of athletics. It is. It's like, honestly, the toughest grit is being vulnerable. The toughest athletes are the most vulnerable athletes because they know they have to be, right? Like, so that being said, choosing me and prep the whole way through was what I was doing differently. And my body started to respond so much better. Like the way my body responds now, I had coaches normalizing told me that 1,400 calories was all my body could ever eat. Like, so that was what was normalized. So now, like that, I'm eating over 200 calories, carbs, and barely doing cardio and having such a post. It's like it's because scientifically, if you allow every part of you to be a part of your physical journey, your mental, emotional, and physical needs, and honor those, and actually welcome in your struggles with a compassion and understanding, and not self-neglect and self-criticism and self-hate, then you can, because to me, struggles is where progression is found, because that's the thing that you feel is holding you back. Well, maybe the way that you were, feeling that resistance just wasn't your way. So how do we welcome in that struggle to then push forward? Right. And so then all of a sudden you're not carrying that on your back. I always use it as like people like bury it or sweep it on live, bury it alive. I'm like, have you ever seen a zombie movie? Those suckers reach their hand out and grab you when you least expect it. That's what happens when you don't like take care of the zombie the way you're supposed to, So that was my transition. And yeah, my body started to respond a lot better. And it honestly helped me. The way I changed my mindset as a person and as an athlete was the coach I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the year 2021 was when I started coaching as well, because I knew what I was doing. I knew I wasn't quite there, but I knew what I was doing and I knew my education. It was different, but it was needed. And whoever was like me needs this. And most of my clients are neurodivergent. So not a lot of neurodivergent people have a low self-esteem and neglect themselves just like I do. So that being said, it allowing my empath side to, and wearing my heart on my sleeve, that I always got told that was a bad thing. I'm like, she's beautiful. Why would I want to hide her? She's great. And anybody that doesn't want to treat her with kindness just because she's out and about has no place being close enough to even affect her. So who cares? Like they don't get to be around me. Like, you know, if people don't want to respect my vulnerability, like then that's fine. You don't have to be. You don't have to be around it. But I'm not going to hide her just to protect them from you. Like kind of energy. And that came for the same toxicity within myself too.
Oh, I love that. You know, this also makes me wonder if, because you do wear your heart on your sleeve, do you feel that posting on TikTok about, because that's a big area you do this, about your diagnoses or experiences, has been helpful in your personal journey, not just in helping others, but in your personal journey?
Yeah. So posting on TikTok actually was, if you go on my TikTok, it's just now transitioning back to kind of bodybuilding, because it was a safe space for me to heal. My Instagram had always been fitness, and fitness to me in that moment wasn't safe for me to talk about as much until I felt like it was, right? And obviously I talk a lot about it now, but at the beginning I was really leaning in on TikTok and, you know, talking a lot about complex PTSD. And I didn't even know what that was, but understanding what you're going through, TikTok kind of, I love the algorithm because it connects you with like-minded people. So you know you're not alone. So then doing these little videos and stuff made me not feel alone when I'm, you know, I would say not feel crazy. One, if you're looking for progress, you're not crazy. Crazy is when you think you don't need any help. You know, and it's like one of those things. So TikTok was definitely a great healing aspect for me. And going live too is I've been doing that recently, which I really, really love, because people, when they think bodybuilding, they think so not who I am. Yeah. And I love kind of telling people. So that gives me that platform.
Love that. And I think what also stands out to me is you getting the physical help with the endometriosis, adenomyosis, as well as then eventually the surgeries and the acupuncture, along with the therapy. You continued to compete and push through in that prep. So there must have been something important to you about prepping. So why was it important for you to continue to go for it despite those challenges and the lack of response from your body?
My biggest why to wanting to do this. In 2022, I almost got my pro card. I missed it by one placement. And Paul always says, that's the moment when you knew it was possible. And he's right. Because I've gotten, you know, that year is the first time I got first call outs. And that, when I first got first call outs in 2022 in national show, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, then this became, it always was my why, to show people that you could do bodybuilding and not hate yourself. It was always my big why, to show people that in real time that it is possible. At the end of the day, diet culture, toxicity, and self-hate and that is so ingrained and embedded, that the thought process of like, yeah, like maybe for you, but yeah, like it's hard to believe it's possible. You know, it's almost, when it looks too good to be true, then people, and I just wanted to help shift people's perspectives. I'm not going to change people's minds. That's going to be on them. All I can do is hopefully show you a different thing, show you that you can win your pro card and not say, you know, sacrifice your joy. And I always said, even when I started this, I said, I'm never going to say the words, you know, once prep is over, I can, and who promised me that time? Coming out of 2020, that helped open up my eyes to the fact that life is short. You know, the world shut down. And it was a situation where I was like, well, I didn't think that could happen. And then all of a sudden everything started happening. And I was like, I don't want to sacrifice anything that makes my light shine. And I don't think I have to. And I wanted to show people that you didn't have to, because it's that you can do one of these moves on Instagram and you're going to find what you think bodybuilding had to be, because somebody is normalizing, neglecting self, and my place in this is hopefully to show even the person that posted that normalization to be like, oh, wait a second, she did it that way. Maybe next time I do it, maybe I can do it that way. If she wants to hire me, that's great. But that's not the goal at the end of the day. My goal is just to help people learn differently, because I didn't know. I didn't know I was sick. Honestly, it's insane. Like, if you actually so since 2020, I found out through all this process, I had endometriosis. I was chronically sick, right? Pretty bad, right? I had complex PTSD. Didn't know I had that. Makes sense once I learned about it. And then also, I learned about my ADHD in ways I never knew about it before. Dr. Amen broke it up to 7 different types, and that helped me really understand my brain in like little compartments. So then that's how I'd be able to create specific coping skills for my actual needs. The only way I could have done that was doing all of this, and then finding out during that, I also found out, wait a second, I've always related to dyslexia. I've never been diagnosed, but I've always related to the trauma of it. I wonder if dyslexia has been broken up to multiple different types. It has. I'm phonologically dyslexic, so I can't sound words out. And I found that out at the same time. So that being said, the level of self-discovery that bodybuilding gave me, that's also a big why, because the sport can give you so much. And it doesn't have to take an iota from you. It doesn't have to take anything from you. You give it. You sacrifice unnecessarily because you believe that's what has to happen. But to me, if you're sacrificing, you're also sacrificing what it has to offer you, which is a level of self-discovery by making yourself a controlled variable, by understanding what, I always say, even as simple as farts are funny, but not normal. So if you're farting up a storm, let's not normalize that. What's causing it, right? And in bodybuilding, because everything's so structured, it's super easy to understand what's happening inside your body instead of just being and then just keep on going. So that's where this whole process was just mainly my big why was hopefully when I won that, not if, when I won that. And that's when when they called my name, I was like, oh my gosh, I did it. And that's why it meant so much to me. Maybe that's the empath in me, maybe that's trauma, but it was never about me. And I don't know how else to say that other than it's amazing that I did it. And it's amazing that I did this for myself. But everything I learned during the process has helped me help others to a level that I never thought I could too. And that's what this is all about for me.
If you're looking for competition heels, jewelry, and fun competitor extras, then visit shoefairyofficial.com and use code CELESTE for a discount at checkout.
I agree. I feel that completely in my personal journey as well. And I think it's an important reminder too that when you prioritize other areas of your life or needs or things that you enjoy, you'll likely have a better experience. And you'll also potentially be an example that you can get to this end result with many different processes. I think that sometimes what gets glamorized isn't always the best approach for everybody. Generally, it's not. And bodybuilding kind of has this preconceived judgment or criticism on it, stereotype. And so when you can kind of show up and say, well, that's not how it has to be, it does empower other people to take a different approach. And I think too, the growing promotion of mental health and emotional health, spiritual health and physical health, believe it or not, physical health and bodybuilding, geez Louise, but it's true, like to actually prioritize that is growing. And I think that's helping young competitors take a slower, more considerate approach. And I think it's also helping existing competitors adjust or adapt their approach so that they can have more longevity in this sport and detach from that outcome defining them. Especially if you've been an athlete your whole life. I imagine that winning plays a lot of importance. And you said early on in the episode that there was a hyperfixation on not doing the wrong thing. So for you to start to learn what's the right thing for me is a big shift. Before I ask you more questions, was there anything from what I just said that you wanted to maybe expand on?
I'm sure I probably could, right? So, I mean, I think that the biggest thing is during all of this is, like you said, health and physical health. My body, and that's another thing. I have a chronic condition that responds negatively, just like the idea of people with endometriosis very much are common to have like things like PCOS. You can have both. I have many clients with both. I don't, but it responds negatively to stress. So it actually allowed me to bring in another level of my athletic mindset. And I love strategy because a true athlete loves strategy. If like, and no matter what sport it is, I love to figure out how do you execute? How do you get through? Like, right. So then when your body is maintaining a level of homeostasis, even if you can create controlled stress and minimize uncontrolled stress, your body will respond better. Period. Right. Yeah. Diet breaks and stuff like that. But that thing said, Paul's stuff worked because my body has been healthy. And that's not just my body. That's my mind. That's my emotions. That's my life. That's everything. But even like post show, people really lose themselves. I do feel like because they sacrifice themselves and that's they're like desperate to find themselves again. But if I could help everybody's mindset in prep or out of prep, just be like, we just got to get back to homeostasis. That's it. If we just get back to equilibrium and our body is healthy, digestion, hormones, sleep, all of it's great. Like, and if not, are you taking your essential vitamins and minerals? Like let's break it all down, and because that right there, before thinking, I'm all about informed consent about anything when it comes to your life. That comes to your protocols, that comes to your plans, that comes to supplements, it comes to everything, right? You need to, before you say yes to anything in life, right? You want to make sure that you're doing it for you. So with food restrictions and like stuff like that, or any restrictions in your life, make sure it has to do with you and not just some random restriction, right? Like I can't have garlic and onion and specific high FODMAP foods because of my damage from endo, right? So but my food restrictions keep me healthy, right? Just like somebody that's allergic to a peanut can't have a peanut because they will die. I won't. So I can have peanut. Doesn't mean it's bad, right? So like, I don't travel with Tupperware. Like literally Wednesday before turning pro, 1 week of not turning pro, I didn't weigh myself. And Wednesday before flying to the show, I don't travel with Tupperware other than like my meats and stuff for the show. I had boom chicka boom popcorn and a Fairlife out of the little convenience store in the terminal because I needed carbs, fats, fiber, and protein. And it digests well. But that works for me. I don't have OCD. I don't have overfocused tendencies. And so when I'm working with so that being said, like you said, it's like wherever you feel resistance, look at it, embrace it, and then allow that resistance to persevere through with what makes sense to you. And that's why my life doesn't take a ton of self-discipline. People always go, I wish I had your self-discipline. I'm like, it doesn't take discipline to live a life that you love. If your life is kind of discipline, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on there because
you can. I mark all of these as explained, even though most of them aren't. I'm like, man, yeah.
That's the thing. It's like, so
yeah, that's a really great point. It's important to consider that what process you take should be challenging enough that you grow and learn, but not so challenging that you eventually burn out or you feel like you're doing something because of somebody else and not for you.
120 minutes of cardio 6 days a week is hard.
Yeah, it is.
Why are you trying to make it harder?
Yeah.
It's like one of those things, like I have chocolate every single day. It's my favorite. It's one of my favorite fat sources. I have it multiple times a day. It could be 30 grams, it could be 50. It's wherever the day leads me. Right. But
Right.
like, I don't restrict anything that I want. If I want something, I don't go, I can't have. I go, how can I have it?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, teach you a lot about nutrition because you're like, okay, I only have this many carbs left. I have this many protein, but I really want that. So how do I have that? And you honestly, guys, Chat GPT is a genius. And you can literally write that into Chat GPT. I'm craving Mexican food. I have this many macros left. This is what I have in my pantry and refrigerator. Boom. And it will shoot out options. I brainstorm with that all the time.
I love that. That's a good idea for recipes, macro-friendly recipes.
Right? Or low FODMAP or like whatever. Like anytime that you're thinking and you're stuck, I'm like, brainstorm with AI because it won't give you the perfect answer, but it will give you some answers you didn't think about.
For sure. Yeah, so let's kind of take a magnifying glass to part of your journey, which is the endometriosis and adenomyosis. Now, the reason I want to do that, I've already explained to you, is because I personally have a lot of symptoms that align with those, but I don't have answers yet. I spoke with Brooklyn Bade on the podcast a long time ago, and she spoke about her experiences with it. And then I'm finally personally going to go and get this checked out soon. So I'm really glad that I have had great providers who are open to that and say, yeah, this isn't normal. I mean, throwing up from pain, crawling around on the floor, having I call them ghost cramps, like the
My first time, first time I passed out for my cycle, I was 18. I was a freshman in college and my teammates had to walk me to the infirmary.
Oh no.
And they told me, it happens. That's it.
Well, is that from the heavy bleeding?
No, just from the pain.
Oh, okay. Wow.
My pain was unreal. My bleeding wasn't that intense for the adeno, which that is a common symptom. But the thing is, I'm so happy that you did reach, I am talking about this because honestly, your doctors and a lot of Western medicine doctors would not believe that I'm healed to the level that I am healed and the level of laughter of symptoms I have based off my diagnosis and based off my life. They don't think it's possible. Like I honestly joke around and say I should be studied just so they can learn what is possible because there's just spoken limitations, right? So the first thing is I'm happy that you have a gynecologist that has diagnosed it. That's amazing. Have you ever been to Nancy's Nook?
No, I haven't had it diagnosed yet. I'm gonna be seeing it's assumed based on symptoms, but we have to go through
Yeah, they're going to do an ultrasound and they have advanced some ultrasound, but they're not going to be able to diagnose. It might be able to, they can diagnose the adeno by like measuring and maybe seeing some things, which is, they're great. I mean, that's great. But then Nancy's Nook is a Facebook group that this Nancy lady is a nurse practitioner. She started this Facebook group. It's an informational group of correct, modern information. So then you don't end up having anything like if you should not have an ablation, those do not work for endometriosis. It's not correct. It's outdated and it's wrong. But yet it happens all the time. So you have to have when you have endometriosis, you need to have an excision surgery because it has the lesions are not surface level. They're rooted. So if they burn the lesion off, you're in pain again in 3 months. And so there are women in this world that have had 40 plus surgeries because the wrong doctor keeps going back in. And there are women that have no organs anymore because the wrong doctor told them that that's what they had to do. And I technically am fertile. My husband had a vasectomy after the surgery, but their surgeries to maintain fertility, like they can cut the nerves to the uterus. That's what they did for me. So then I no longer feel that pain. But I am still technically, I have all my organs and it's fertile. But if you Google that specific diagnosis, they're only going to have hysterectomy or birth control as options, as treatments. But that's not true And why are there less than 500 proper surgeons to properly take care of endometriosis in this country? I do not know. There's a lot about this I do not know. All I know is when people reach out to me in my DMs, I am info dumping so hard on everything. And if anybody wants to, there is the most, it is a highlight on my page. It's from the moment I got diagnosed to today. So you go through a journey of me not knowing what the heck's going on to me kind of learning and then us learning, right? So the biggest thing is making sure you're with the right surgeon. Before you say yes to surgery, you want to make sure that they can take care of everything and that they aren't only for gynecological organs. That if it is on your bowel, your colon, your spine, your lung, it can get into your lymphatic system, right? And because if a surgeon goes in and they're only approved for gynecological, they'll leave it behind. And that's like leaving behind cancer. It's just gonna grow. And you just went in surgery. It's painful. It's uncomfortable. And there's a recovery. So I want everybody to be able to have one surgery, just like I did, and never have to go back. And I will never have to go back. And then endometriosis, and then acupuncture was the next step. And everybody, after surgery, I'm saying, okay, you're done with Western. You're done with them. It's fine. They did their job. Yay. You don't need birth control if you don't want birth control. I haven't been on birth control to manage symptoms. That's what they're going to tell you. You have to have. You don't. Because that masked symptoms. And I didn't want to mask symptoms. I wanted none. So I worked with Dr. Julie. I did two times a week for 3 months. During prep, though, I don't know if I would have to do it that often. I probably would have. It probably been more efficient if I wasn't in prep too. But it can make post-op care increase 70% faster in the healing process post-op with gynecological acupuncture and Chinese medicine to help regulate out your organs and stuff. So that's basically why in 2022, like that show I almost won my pro card, I was on day 2 of my period. And so like learning this whole process and then learning pelvic floor dysfunction, like that also, helps me be a better posing coach, but teaching people pelvic floor therapy because of where my endo was. And then also castor oil packs and holistic approaches to help with adhesions and then break up adhesion, help with circulation and minimize inflammation with like castor oil packs. Like there's stuff I learned from acupuncture. Like, did you know if you're constipated during ovulation, if you do a castor oil pack on your liver, that's what's going on because your liver has issues during ovulation because of the stress and everything that right then, all of a sudden, digestive issues will be fixed. It works. It's real. But these are like inner workings of like Dr. Julie and acupuncture, when it came to healing, allowed me to understand like where my body's needs were with that one too. So when you're going through it, I'm your teammate now. I help a lot of my clients. A lot of clients come to me and they tell me the same thing. And I very much always want to make sure everybody's going down the same pathways that I went because I've seen it go down the other ways. And it should be like, woohoo, it's just it's a very simple conversation. It's just sadly, it's not. And I want to prevent anybody from giving up dreams like fertility or feeling like they have to like lose things. Like I said, informed consent. Let's make sure the information that you're having is correct before you give consent.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I really appreciate that insight and feedback as well, because I think a lot of it goes underdiagnosed and overlooked because we have been told for so long to normalize it, and our moms were told, or our grandmas or our aunts or whoever is in our life, other females in our life have been told that too. So then it's like, oh, well, at least for me, everyone in the family has painful periods. Everybody does. Now, I think that there's also a level of probably, like you said, holistic treatments that can be done that are important to consider in that process too, so as to not lose hope. But what I'm hearing from you is there's options. And I think that's really key. And there's also resources. So one thing you had mentioned earlier was about your husband. So you said he's been supportive. And when did you guys get married? And what was that?
So you go, yeah, we got married in 2018. Yes, finish your question.
And I was going to ask how his support has been different or even healing to you as opposed to like maybe previous experiences you had.
So my husband is an extremely kind and compassionate person. He's the first, and that was the thing that set him up. I didn't date for a long time. I dated seriously with somebody in college. Once that ended, I was basically scared of the whole process. So never was in a really committed relationship until I met my husband. And when I met him, the one thing that set him apart is that he is extremely kind. Mm-hmm. And I knew it felt different. And I liked that. I didn't know it, whatever, right? So then we met in 2015 and playing volleyball. By the way, he asked me to be his co-ed partner in a volleyball tournament. So that's how we met. And my husband also was in the marching band. He played clarinet in high school. So like, and he was homeschooled and was raised like, we're when on paper, very opposites, right? And people get very confused. They're like, so does your husband lift? I'm like, not at all. He has probably canceled his gym membership, like I think 4 or 5 times, 6 times. Now it's at least twice a year. He'll start it back up and then it's just not his thing.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, but I don't need that. I need in my feeling of safety, I just need to feel safe, supported, and I need to have my independence. You don't have to be involved in it, right? And he's gone to shows before too. And he doesn't like it. He doesn't have any interest in it. So then why would I force you to do it? Because then when I'm all excited getting off stage, you're like exhausted and like you're I can tell it's fake energy here. Like I can feel energy way too much. I was like, I'd rather us just celebrate after the fact and celebrate with people that are interested in bodybuilding. So then we can feed off this really nice, positive, like excited energy. Right. And so that's where I love the fact that like, you know, I never had this much independence in a relationship before. I didn't think it was possible to be me. And I thought all of those things. Sadly, I've never been in a relationship that had compassion. So I wasn't allowed to struggle very much. That's probably the root of like a lot of my complex, not probably, it is the root of a lot of my complex stuff is that I never received compassion. So the fact that my husband continuously does, and he supports me in ways that make sense to me. Like I'm ADHD and I do want to touch on one thing because I think it's really cool, but I'm not going to squirrel off, I promise. My husband, I always say navigating proper ADHD medications and the systems is like neurodivergent Hunger Games. Only because it's literally made for neurotypicals, but it's frustrating for neurotypical people. That's how bad it is. So my husband, and in Florida, people very much not, I don't know, and I love Florida and I love the experience, but people were kind of a little bit angry, like calls and like trying to get the pharmacy and the whole situation. My husband just started doing it. I have not filled my own prescriptions. He calls the doctor, makes my appointments for me, puts them in my calendar. He works at a desk. So it's not like he's sitting here being my assistant. He just sees, like he just constantly sees things that are a struggle for me personally as a neurodivergent person. And he goes, that's easy for me because he's neurotypical. So I haven't done laundry since 2018. Haven't done it because it takes him, what takes me 6 hours and 3 cries, it takes him 15 minutes and I don't understand it. It's voodoo magic to me. Like, how did you just do that? Where I was just like sobbing in a pile of like clothes, you know, it's like, I remember the moment too, just to give you a glimpse of who he is that I was crying in laundry because again, I haven't been with people that had compassion. So I got berated a lot. So I thought again, I was about to get berated because I let it get too much and all this stuff. And my husband saw me kind of starting to go into a bad place. And he just goes, Kayla, no, this is what marriage is about. Where you struggle, I step in. This is easy for me. You don't have to do this. So don't do this. And I was like, I lost it. Like, it's just like, to have somebody see you in that level of in your struggle, that's right. It honestly helped me generate self-compassion because like I said, if I've never witnessed it, how would I have ever known how to give it to myself? my husband's compassion and kindness and support really has allowed that younger version of me before the trauma, that kind, compassionate side of me to start showing myself the same thing within my neurodivergent things. Because even being diagnosed with that growing up, you know, I would say that it made you really, really painfully aware of your weaknesses, but blinded you from all your strengths.
Hmm.
Because all they're telling you is what you're doing wrong, but they forget to tell you all the things you're doing right. So, so that being said, that's what my husband does to support me in this. And I couldn't have done any of this without him.
There's so much I want to expand on there. So for one, I think that's a great example that healing can take place within relationships, even though there's a strong message that you have to be perfect to be a relationship material in quotes, you guys, if you're not watching this on YouTube. To be relationship material, you got to be perfect and perfectly healed and all. I think that is a very strange and limiting mindset. Obviously, there's things you have to take personal responsibility for, but within relationship, you can heal too. So I think that was something that stood out to me. The example of compassion and the ability to see that there are going to be different interests, and interest doesn't always equal commitment. So for example, just because you're dating a bodybuilder doesn't mean that they're maybe compassionate or loving or kind. And just because you're dating someone who isn't into bodybuilding doesn't mean they won't be supportive or understanding or respectful. And being able to know what it is that matters is very important. Like yourself, I don't need someone who does competing or does bodybuilding or even goes to the gym. He needs to be active. He needs to be able to go on a walk or a hike with me for sure. But the rest, I'm like, if you're just having fun, playful things is your thing, that's great. So you do have to have an understanding of what it is that you really truly need, not the thing that you think you need sometimes. And then to kind of build off of that further, I think it's also important that you exercised that grace for yourself. You saw it's okay to receive this support, and it's okay to use my strengths somewhere else and learn what those strengths are, and vice versa. So it sounds like you both do a great job of anticipating each other's needs and respecting each other for who you are within the relationship.
Yeah. And I think our biggest thing is it's never me versus him on anything. It's us versus whatever situation it is. Even if it's an argument between me and him, we know it's not me and him versus each other. It's whatever is in the room right now. And even when I'm struggling to ask for help, I will even say, I'm feeling really dysregulated about this right now. I really want to ask for help, but it feels really silly. And I'll let him know that I'm really uncomfortable to ask for help, and him, every time I do that, it helps heal that emotional trauma of when I asked for help, I was received with hate or criticism, or why do you need help with that? That just, it's like, because I'm different. And honestly, having a supportive partner like that has allowed me to utilize my energy in ways that benefit me and propel me forward. Right. I was a successful real estate agent before 2020. I didn't like the energy of real estate after 2020. So that's why I also transitioned to that. But it's just amazing to me. It's like, I just kept growing in all of these aspects because I wasn't wasting energy thinking that I suck at laundry. Who cares that I suck at laundry? There's so many amazing things about me that so many people from my past are never going to experience because they were so obsessed with laundry. Like, if it's so easy for you, then do it. Because if it's so much easier for you than it is for me, why would you yell at me?
Mm-hmm.
For not being you? I wouldn't yell at you for not being me. My husband's he was an introvert when we first met, I've helped him get out there and tell. He's so funny. And I tell people all the time, you want the funniest jokes? Go sit by Brandon. He won't say them loudly. Sometimes I just repeat them loudly so everybody hears it and everybody thinks I'm super funny. But Yeah, like I've helped him like get outside his box too, and embrace his authenticity and his needs. And like we just want to support each other. So just because he's not sitting in the audience when I won that pro card doesn't mean that he wasn't watching the lives. And just because I travel alone doesn't mean I'm not supported and all those kind of things. And I know people have thought that. So, and honestly, that's a reflection on their perception on relationships and not a reflection on me. And I hope one day that they those people that do think these things, hopefully one day, and that's not anytime any stuff happens, I just go, hopefully one day they can reach a level of healed that they can see what this is, because it's an amazing thing to feel this, no matter what it is.
So true. So that's a great point. Sometimes too, I think we have to go through personal experiences that then teach us. I know that's true for me. You go through a personal experience, you're like, I'm doing that differently moving forward.
Learning the hard way is the only way apparently I know how to learn. Like anything.
I was born. Didn't matter.
It really sticks when it goes that way.
Yeah, doesn't it?
And this whole process has been amazing for me, because my husband, even though being neurotypical, has allowed me to embrace my being neurospicy. That has been one of being ADHD, endometriosis athlete has been probably the leading thing. But also, like, I want you to know, like, this whole process too, like even the medications and the supplementations I take for my ADHD, I'm the one that told my doctors about it. Like, so I never even knew ADHD was like low dopamine, right? I didn't know that that's what that was. So when I learned that, right? So like with endometriosis, all roots back, but my types of ADHD are rooted in my emotions. So that's why I have to have compassion for my mental and emotional needs, because they can dysregulate off of low dopamine, which I can't control. Right. So that being said, when I talked to my doctors, I was taking Adderall all the time, which is a time release. But once I learned my type of ADHD, if I'm getting dopamine and it's going like this, if it's not rooted into my emotions, they're not going to feel these. Mine is. So then I started taking Vyvanse, which is that steady release of it. But then I learned that estrogen is a building block of dopamine. And when you go from your ovulation to your menstruation, your estrogen goes down. That's why PMDD exists. That's why PMS exists. Because if you are ADHD or you're neurodivergent, or if you just have chronic inflammation, all that kind of stuff can affect all of it. As your estrogen goes down, so your symptoms go up. So my Vyvanse wasn't working as well. So then I talked to my doctor about giving me medication boosters. So I take Adderall quick release medication boosters to keep my body consistent across the board in all 4 phases of my cycle. And the reason I could do that is because my life is so controlled to a level because of PrEP that I was like, oh, that's a symptom. What can I do there? Oh, that's a mental symptom. Why is that a mental symptom? Is that a vitamin? Is that a mineral? Or is that my medications? Right. And so that, honestly, learning all of that and dictating my health with my doctors. I don't go to doctors and be like, what do you think? I go, this is what I think. This is what I would like. This is why I think this is the best way. Now doctor it, and learning that too, because all of it all comes back together. Having a supportive partner, redoing this, and then also just challenging everything allowed me to literally dictate my health and to be able to control what's going on up here to some level. I am ADHD. The thing will do what it wants sometimes. But it's one of those things that, like, that's why I like to do these kind of things. It's like, there's so much you can be doing for yourself in the sport of bodybuilding that isn't forcing yourself fasted cardio with saran wrap on the step mill. I heard saran wrap this past, last 9 months. I was on saran wrap on the step mill. I'm like, or meditation actually probably would have had her body respond better than saran wrap. That's how I think. It's time to just go do a quick breathe work, some meditation, because added stress, man, ain't fixing it, But that's why I think that I sometimes I confuse some people sometimes because of the level of, like you said, limited mindset I don't think people choose to live in a limited mindset. I don't think they think they are living that. But when they witness somebody doing a growth mindset and they go, but how? I'm like, how much time do you have? Because this has been a thing. This has been a whole heck of a lot that it should probably be a book. I don't know.
Yeah. You're like, listen to this podcast and then.
Right? So when you reached out to me, I was really excited about it. I was like, we'll see. Hopefully her editing's good and we don't squirrel off, you know?
Don't worry. I don't even edit because.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I'm like, I like it how it is.
Lives. So they're just like, whatever happens, happens.
Exactly. There's so much. I actually think I perform better live because of that.
Oh my gosh. The level of like one, if you put me on a script, I'm a great talker, salesperson, but if you put me on a script,
Yeah, same.
and then also like the level of video editing it takes to try to condense something into 7 seconds to please the algorithm overstimulates me to no end that I probably will never post it because I'm just like, wow.
Well, and then everything like
It's
a wild place.
Sensitive dysphoria. The algorithm literally triggers my RSD. Have you ever heard of RSD before?
Your what?
It's called rejection sensitive dysphoria. Have you ever heard that before?
I've heard of it because I've seen people who expose themselves to rejection and crazy
Yeah,
things.
so it's like it's a very common thing that happens to people that are neurodivergent. It's an intense response to rejection, even perceived rejection. So if I put all this effort in, right, and I did it, and I press post, and then the algorithm tanks it, it robs me of my dopamine, and then it's like I like the feeling because it's like it didn't give me. I did all this effort for nothing. But lives, I feel like are just so much less effort, but way more organic. And the people that want to watch it, they do.
That makes sense. And you know what, too? I think people online can, there's always going to be something that can be said. Oh, well, what about this context or this context? It's like, for me, that's where I get tripped up because I'm like, well, technically this and technically that, or well, if you consider, so you can never get all of that in one post. And then the day you decide, well, it's okay, I won't provide all the potential context. That's when someone decides to comment, well, if it was, and you're like,
right. Okay. Now and then like you put all the context and then like, no one really reads the caption until somebody does when you decide not to.
Yeah.
No, I can't. So
yeah, absolutely.
I would wish I was like, hey, let's let the algorithm just like, don't care about it. I'm trying. We're working on it. I'm real trying not to care.
Yeah, that's actually why I post on TikTok because it's the place that I don't care. Because I just post mental health videos for counselors or for people who want to learn about mental health because I just find that's my outlet for more broad mental health as opposed to the build more than just a body that's applied to a lot of athletes, competitors.
I've never ended up on the wrong side of TikTok. And like one of my videos my following is mainly from one video about complex PTSD. And I love it. The healing community on TikTok is amazing. So
yeah, I love that. So, okay, I want to talk to you about your experiences going pro and how that's now maybe going to change the way that you're representing yourself or what you want to achieve. Because when you were getting the pro card, you wanted to prove what was possible with these emphases on other areas. What do you want to represent or maybe pursue in your pro career?
So honestly, keeping the same energy up, right? But with a professional status, keeping the same mindset of healing towards your goals, right? No matter what that's going to be, that's what I'm going to continue doing. My goal with pro is I turned pro in masters, right? My goal with pro is to compete on the open bikini pro stage. So to me, that means I'm going to focus more on that growing and like that really good improvement season, because the one thing about my journey is that I haven't taken that time to really focus on allowing my body to just not be in that season, right? My brain loves seasons. I've played sports my whole life, right? So I think this time it's just basically bringing that same mindset into growth, into the off season, and helping other women in this time. And when I decided to prep, to that show. It's definitely going to be like, I want to go to a show where like Ashley Kay is and Jen Dory and my teammates that are amazing. Like when Daraja has her baby and when she's back on stage and Ari, like I want to be compared against the best, right? Because that would be amazing to me to get that feedback from the judges, because shows to me I love feedback so much, because that is where the strategy comes in. What else? That kind of stuff. So I guess that would be my mindset now with turning pro, and just continuously being myself, and hopefully helping other women towards whatever if it's confidence to the stage or whatever it is, that's what my focus is going to be on.
So what was the feedback you got that you're now working towards? I mean, you said you want to focus on growing for the open division. What does that look like for you?
So I think amazing. So I definitely want to touch on this a little bit, because this universe was the first time I've competed in more than one division since 2017. Because I won in novice, and I got second in novice or something my first season ever. Okay. And then I never got to do like multiple for all these years. So like, yeah, that was so hard. And honestly, it allowed me to empathize first by novice girls better. I know it's harder to keep like filled out and stuff, but that was difficult, waiting that long and then competing in open after doing masters. And I'm like, so
and the adrenaline rush that already has happened.
Right. Like Tyler's demeanor is very, we all know he's very stern and not very expressive. That's it. So he really, when he looks at you, it's quick, and he moved me like center immediately. Like before we even turned back, he was like, move. And he moved me in before we even turned it back. I was like, well, that's first. like, so that was amazing. But then coming out for masters, I wasn't the same competitor. I didn't feel the same. I didn't feel as grounded. Come out for open. I didn't feel as grounded. I definitely felt like I was flat. Did I eat enough? I was questioning. My anxiety came back. I didn't have any anxiety at masters, but I had anxiety in open. Like when I say like that, there was a switch. And so my feedback is what you asked was just glutes. I need to get more upper, outer, and glute depth. My look, my shape, my balance, they love all of that. I just really just need more of that booty. And that's always my feedback. So that's where I'm going to be focusing on that. But also like I placed 7th in open at the same time I won a pro card, right? That is the reality of the situation. But the thing is, I like, because that's on news online, whatever. That's not a hidden thing. But I wanted to be clear with people is that like I'm very much aware on the fact that the person that walked on stage for Masters 35 Plus wasn't the same person that came out for open. I still gave it my all. I posed, but I remember the exact moment. So me and Kelby actually were working on my front pose. Do you know Kelby? Amazing. She by the way, she has so we met for the first time at Universe, and I didn't know there was like a version of me that's super organized, but her Kelby, and she's blonde and she lives in Texas. She's amazing. She was one of the key components of my calm. She was an amazing roommate, and now she's like one of my closest friends. But we were working on my posing, and she was like, you got to really push into it, which I did that in Masters. And I remember Tyler looked at me, and I told you, he only looks for like that, right? So he looked at me, and the moment he looked at me, I realized I was relaxed in my pose, and I tried to push into it. By the time he like looked away and like pushed me out, in that moment, I went, oh, when you've done this a while and you're like, I effed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that being said, that doesn't take away from me still being an IFBB pro. But I'd be lying to you if I sat here and didn't think, did that take something away from me in that moment of, are people going to think I am still a human being, right? So that also was, should I, going into the pro thing. But then when I started looking at photos with my knowledgeable brain and looking at I'm like, no, like, KAYLA, this is exactly what happened. And so 1, you're not going to do multiple divisions again. But 2, now you know what winning feels like, what you felt like. I had no anxiety. I had like how I felt going on stage for masters. I've never felt like that before ever stepping on. So now that I know what, honestly, stepping on stage and getting first call outs, but not getting that top area where it had my anxiety, it had different things. And then the feeling of being moved center immediately. There was a clear difference within my own mindset and my own self in that moment too. So when going into pro division, I wanted to be honest about this kind of stuff. And then how I can grow through even the show that I turn pro at.
Wow. Yeah, I think it's going to be really amazing to see that journey, especially having a longer improvement season for the first time, really taking your time to grow and deliver on that feedback. You also said earlier this has played a role in how you approach coaching others as well. So how do you feel these experiences influence you as a coach?
Yeah. So people, when they think about hiring me, they always feel like they have to clarify, you can give me tough love. You can whatever. I'm like, okay, so trust me. I can never be as mean to you as you already are to yourself.
Yeah.
That's okay. I will give you tough love. I will give you insane amount of love because that's what you need. And so I tell them that you're going to be anxious around me. I stand in a place of coach. It has nothing to do with me, but it's my job to help you feel safe and secure in this. So however, I have to allow your nervous system to know that I welcome struggles. Like I don't want, I tell them all the time, I don't believe excuses exist, and not in that negative aspect, excuses don't exist. No, I don't think excuses exist because they're legitimate, valid struggles. And so that shifted my mindset, because I even used to say the term, you're stronger than any excuse. No, you're not. You're not stronger. That you are stronger than your struggles, but if you call them excuses, you're not doing anything about it. You're repeating the same cycle, right? So I tell my girls, hey, excuses don't exist, but you have a legitimate, valid struggle, and I want you to tell me about it. So then me and you can look at it, and I can teach you how to confront it with compassion. And I understand that no matter how much healing we're going to do, you're going to have a moment of factory reset mode. And that's what I tell them. Like, so and I tell them, like, that means that you're going to revert back to whatever traumatic situation, under eating, whatever it was. And then I'm going to call out the bully. And so I guess my coaching, I always say I'm like MapQuest 2024 and not, oh no, Google Maps 2024, not MapQuest 1992. Right. Mm-hmm. And so that being said, I want to be in your car, you're driving, and I'm helping navigate through your life. But also I want to help you create, I can't promise you that the bully that lives up here is going to go anywhere.
Right.
But I can help you create a best friend to exist up there with it. So then the bully no longer has a voice that means anything to you. Like, toxic things are going to exist. They just are. But if you believe in yourself and you bring back that, honestly, in that new movie, when it's like that sense of self, if you find your sense of self, and I can help my girls find that sense of self, that's where confidence is, right? I was like, your body, I'm going to get your weight loss. That's my job. Physical stuff, I'm going to help you get there. I need you to be nice to yourself on the way there. So that's why we do 15-minute FaceTime calls with each one of our girls. We offer it 2 to 4 times a month for a premium, and then 1 to 2 for just reduced. But that allows me to look you in the eyes and say, what's going on? What are the kids doing? What's the boyfriend doing? What's going on with the job? Like, I want to know what's going on in life to help you navigate it in a way that's better. And then also I tell them all the time, I don't believe in woulda, coulda, shoulda, but we are going to look back. Let's say you went to Disney and you felt like you ruined everything. Okay. I'm not gonna woulda, coulda, shoulda, but like, next time that happens, because you are going to go again, it's something that you love doing. So how could we do it differently the next time? What feels bad about it now? And let's play it back. And so then the next time you go, then you have a game plan on how you can navigate and prevent feeling like this again. Because the thing is, we can't take this back, but what we can do is learn from it. And so that basically is what I do with my clients. And then I make sure their program aligns with their needs. So they all have meditations in their programming. They all have, pelvic floor work and Pilates and hip stretching and stuff like that, because I know how beneficial it is to teach about recovery mindset and mobility on top of hypertrophy and deficits and fat loss and anabolic. I'm teaching you that too. But this other stuff is going to be what's going to keep that sustainability. And that's just kind of how it goes down.
That's exactly right. And before we started recording, you were telling me about something new that you guys are working on. So if you want to talk about that, I think it's a great opportunity for people who haven't competed, especially.
Well, I'm really excited about this one because it's a pre-competition prep program. It's going to be a 12-week program. Ideally, it's going to be an idea of fat loss phase or rebody comp based on people's nutritional needs coming in. But it's going to have 3 phases. Each phase is going to teach you something. And the whole point of this framework program is to teach you the framework of being a competitor and teach you what competition should look like, what is healthy, and teaching you that nice foundational work to, one, do you like the routine? Like, is all this routine what you like? Because if it's not, but you learned a lot from it, then we can just go on a lifestyle thing now. Because now you just don't like that. That's awesome. But then also the ones that go, oh, I love this, I'm ready to get on stage. Great, let's do that. Now you've gone through the process, you understand all of this context behind it all. You've built this foundation that's rooted in who you are. And now we're going to go into a customized, because it's not customized, it's all the same training program for each person. So it's not customized training, it's customized nutrition and customized cardio. But then when you transition into a one-on-one, you get customized training and all this stuff. And all you're doing is just continuing the same energy, right? And so then prep no longer feels like restriction and just this huge, a life-altering situation, because you've already learned how to implement it into your life and you know the why behind a lot of it. It comes with like a 30-page ebook explaining things from RPE to macro timing to macro mindset to stage weight. I even put stage weight on there. I gave the ranges of what stage weight is because people always ask, but then I gave context of what that means. These things that people talk about a lot. And the goal with Dumbbells and Donuts is to teach people there's no such thing as good or bad on the relative on anything, right? It's all relative to the person. And if people decide after this they want to prep with Dumbbells and Donuts, that would be amazing for us. And we would love that. But the goal for this for us is that we are so tired of seeing people go through this stuff. And we all have gone through it, each one of us coaches, because we're all around the same age. We've all had the preps, our first preps like this. We don't want to see anybody else go through a terrible first prep thinking that this is what prep is. And one, walking away from the sport thinking it's dangerous and toxic because that's what you experienced. Or 2, not knowing how to get informed consent. Even if you're with a different coach from us, what you learned in this program is going to allow you to confidently set boundaries around what other people might be saying or ask questions. And we're going to empower you, because that's how we do with our clients. We don't put blinders on. We empower our clients to communicate with us every single time. So that's what we want to be able to help girls do with this program, is just be able to confidently control their preps, no matter if it's with us or somebody else.
That's great. And I think it's important to harp on or maybe re-emphasize the fact that no matter what, if you're considering competing, it's important to know that it can be part of your life. And usually some sort of integration phase prior to competing will be of benefit. And I think that...
Oh, sorry, I didn't want to...
Oh, I was just saying, I think that's something I wish I knew when I was starting.
Well, that's the one thing Paul said. I mean, Paul had coached a lot of people, obviously, and he has a lot of experience, and he's coached some of the best, right? The one thing that he has said to me continuously, I find I probably should post him saying it, is just that I'm one of the most consistent clients he's ever had. And this is why. This is exactly why. You don't see me having these moments, right? Because to hear somebody that I know works with some of the best say that about me makes me realize that, okay, then what I'm doing is bigger than me. because that means I could help maybe some pros out there that are self-neglecting themselves and maybe walk away from a professional career because they think it's taking from their life. But maybe it's just the way that they're doing it that's taking from their life. You know, like that's where I'm like, but maybe it's not. So that's where I love this whole thing.
Me too. I love that insight. And I think that there's so much value in sharing our journeys too for this exact reason, because we get to show like there are different ways to approach this, and there's value in finding the best way for you, even if it's a little bit painful and requires change and trying new things. It is beneficial, and the inner work will sneak up on you no matter what. So it's better to address it and have the support of people who have also done it, I think is beneficial. So everything that you've shared has been awesome. I mean, from your own personal journey to your experiences, your insights. I want to ask you for your best advice, but before I do that, is there anything that you think I should have asked you that I didn't?
No, I think that we've covered a ton of things. I feel like you've done a really good job of funneling it in there, because I was like, I don't even know how to properly, talk about it, because I feel like there's just so much.
There's so much. And that's the thing, like I've had to learn through podcasting. We'll probably never cover every single aspect of someone's story, and there'll always be something more. I'll be like, that would have been, but nothing's limited, right? We can always come back, do more. And it just creates new conversations. It opens new doors. So I'm grateful. And now I'll ask you for your best advice. So what would be your best advice for someone who has never competed before, but would like to? And then your best advice for someone who's on their road to pro?
So advice for both of them. I have a few advice for both of them is self-hate and self-criticism have no place in your journey. And if you challenge that, and if you if you stop motivating yourself with a level of negativity and self-hate, and you pivot it to self-love and true self-acceptance and true self-understanding and compassion, I want you to understand how much lighter your life will be, how much you're not going to have body dysmorphia. I honestly think the root of body dysmorphia is rooted in thinking that you're never good enough, hating yourself forward towards a goal, and thinking that that trophy is the thing that's going to make you love you. One, if you never thought that you were good enough, why do you think you're going to see yourself in a way that you've achieved anything? And if you hated yourself every step forward, and you hated everything about the process, why do you think you're going to love anything that you see in the mirror? That what is behind your eyes? Your brain. So that's what I would suggest. If any part of your journey is rooted in something that you hate about yourself, try to figure out how you can love that thing about yourself, because trust me, there's so much lovable things about the things that you think are your worst qualities. So that would be my advice there. For people wanting to compete for the first time, do your research. Okay. Educate yourself. Lane Norton, Paul Rivera, they put out a lot of free content when it comes to this. I love Lane's book of competition prep. At least debunks a lot of that root stuff before saying yes to a coach. Make sure they align with your core values. And that being said, just because somebody has whatever, if they don't communicate the way that you like, if it feels off, you don't feel heard or seen, the way that they live their life doesn't align with your core values, then that person is not for you. You don't want to be mentored by somebody that doesn't align with your core values. Paul and Tipo Physique align with Team Dumbbells and Donuts and my personal team, like my personal core values. So that would I be there. So, and then also girls that going pro, stop trying to think that you are driving towards pro, but take that away from it. Drive towards the best version of yourself, and that moment will come. Because the thing is, like, if you focus on just little by little being the best version of yourself and grounding who you are and getting that, when you win your pro card, when that happens, you're going to be so grounded in who you are that you're going to really feel it, right? And when you're always just striving, you've never seen me I'm not neglecting anybody, saying anybody that's had the road to pro, but my road was to healing. Mm-hmm. My journey was to do this sport and hopefully turn pro. So I would just make sure the mindset and the way that you're speaking to yourself on this journey is a way that is adding value to you, because a pro card is literally a piece of paper. it's a status. It's not value unless you put the value behind it.
Ooh, rewind, press play again. Exactly.
Drop the cup. No, there's stuff.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that. I wanted to echo. So I'm grateful you shared that. I'm grateful for your time. I want other people to be able to follow your journey, connect with you, reach out about working with you. So how can they do that?
My handles are all the same. It's just Kayla_IFBB Pro. And my DMs are always open. You can DM me. You also can just fill out an application. And then you'll be put on a call with me. We do free consultation calls with every single person that want to work with Dumbbells and Donuts. So during that call, we'll talk about your goals, your struggles, what you need help with. And the point of doing that is to make sure everybody feels comfortable and confident before any commitments are made. And I want to make sure my coaching style aligns with you. So trust me, like if you DM me and you want to work with me, I'm just going to send you my link to my calendar. I'm like, just check my calendar. Let's talk. Let's see if it's a good fit. And when it comes to budgets, that's a conversation I want to talk about too. It's like, I want to know what your goals are, and then what is your budget? Because trust me, I'm sure I can make something work within your needs and that too. And during conversations is the best way to do that.
Awesome. Well, that'll all be in the show notes page. So you guys, that's on celestial.fit/podcast. If you're listening right away, it'll be at the top of that page. If you're listening in the future, scroll down to the category section, which is alphabetized. Not only will you find the links to connect, but you're also going to find a full summary of the episode, a bulleted list of the topics we covered, as well as the episode timestamps. So you can go back and listen to your favorite parts, as well as share it with your teammates, your friends, your family. Let them know what resonated with you. And of course, it means so much to us when you tag us that you've listened, and it means so much to the athletes when they get those messages from you guys thanking them for sharing their story or reaching out about something that did resonate. So all that being said, Kayla, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. And to everybody listening, hope y'all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.